Some people are unable to visit their past lives. What would it mean?
That's not true. That's because the regression was done incorrectly. There are certain things that a good regressionist can do to assist a person to experience the past lives. See, one of the problems with that is that people believe that in experiencing a past life, that past life regression is necessarily a visual experience. It is not. Past life regression can be auditory, in which you actually hear things. It can be kinesthetic, which means that it's something that you feel in an emotional sense, in other words, or it can be just a knowing. So if a person is unable to visit a specific past life, then that's usually because the higher self deems that they're not ready for that experience at that particular time. They may be ready later on, but they're not ready at that particular time. I've never had a situation where I didn't have a client experience a past life, but then I use certain techniques that almost force a person into a past life.
So, have you ever visited your past life too?
Yes, I've visited my past life. I've had colleagues of mine hypnotize me to experience a past life, so I have.
What did you see?
Well, the last one I did, I experienced myself as a fighter pilot during World War II, who died in a dogfight.
Can it be possible if a person doesn't want to be reincarnated again?
Yes, possible. A person can decide that they don't want to incarnate, but remember, it is only through reincarnation that our soul grows and our soul evolves. If we accept the premise that the purpose of reincarnation is to, at one point, be one with the universe or one with the Creator, however you happen to look upon it, they can choose not to reincarnate. But I've never heard of an experience where a soul made immediately upon crossing over, because of the trauma that they went through during that lifetime, they may decide never again. But usually in the time period between lives and in their meetings and the discourse they have with their spirit guide, the council of elders, their soul group, they do eventually decide to reincarnate. It may be for a longer time, subjectively speaking, because there is no time in the afterlife, past, present, and future all one. But they can decide not to reincarnate, but by doing that, but they will not do that. They will only do that for a short period of time.
Dr. Bruce E. Kaloski is a best-selling author and expert in hypnotherapy, motivational psychology, and past life regression, mentoring the elite to reprogram their reality through subconscious alignment and karmic awakening. If you are an author ready to self-publish or share your voice with the world, visit blazegoodburst.com, your portal to publishing, visibility, and global impact. Also, support this movement by diving into Lord's Ordinary Children by Gita Shripani and Reversed Order Existence by Blaze Goldburst.
Welcome to the show, Dr. Bruce.
Oh, thank you very much, Blaze. My pleasure to be here.
Can past life karma be hacked or bypassed? Or is it a fixed contract we must honor?
Well, I take a different view of karma. And that question, whether it can hack or bypass, well, in my view, karma is probably not what most people think it is. Okay? Karma means action. It's the principle of cause and effect. It means that for every action, there is a consequence. I'll give you an example. If you drive your car 80 miles an hour in a 55 mile per hour zone, while thumbing your nose at the traffic guy, the cop you just passed, you're going to get a ticket. There's nothing really magical, mystical, even very spiritual about that. If we remember from the physics class, Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there is an equal and an opposite reaction. Well, one school of thought holds that occurrences and deeds from past lives always have an unequivocal response. Okay, what I mean by this is that a deterministic, preordained view where one action, let's call it action A, always results in a karmic consequence B. And that implies retributive justice in the human sense. See, but I don't believe, personally, that karma is about justice or divine retribution. In the example I gave you above, where I talked about going 80 miles an hour in a 55 mile per hour zone, if you get caught doing that, that will result in justice being served, right? In other words, you're going to get a fine. But in the traffic court of karma, there may be no such rigidly determined consequences. Contrary to the deterministic interpretation of karma held by some from the perspective of spirit, some would say that there's really no need for karmic justice because there's no such thing as a karmic or cosmic injustice. Some would argue, I'm one of them, that karma really is about entanglement. Now, I don't know if you know anything about quantum physics, but entanglement is at the heart of quantum physics, and it may play a role in consciousness, in karma. I devoted an entire program to consciousness, quantum physics, and its possible relationship to reincarnation on my show and my Facebook group. But for now, let's just say that like other aspects of quantum science, the phenomena of entanglement reveals itself at very tiny subatomic, what's called microscopic scales. When two particles, such as a photon or photons or electrons, become entangled, they remain connected even when they're separated by vast distances, even light years. In the same way that, let's say, a ballet or a tango emerges from individual dances, entanglement arises from the connection between particles. And so I believe that the entanglement spreads over lifetimes as a karmic entanglement. Let's just say that karma, in the classical sense of the word, means it seems a very human idea, right? We love tit for tat. We like comeuppance, divine justice, don't we? Wouldn't you agree? As human beings, we want to think that Hitler or Genghis Khan, Charles Manson, Ted Bundy, others, mass murderers, get their just desserts. Well, maybe. And then again, maybe not. See, as we know, one theory holds that those who do evil in this life will pay for their transgressions either in the afterlife, through eternal damnation, hellfire, or in the next incarnation by undergoing what they inflicted on others in this life. In other words, the murderer gets murdered, the torturer gets tortured, the swindler gets swindled, the cheater gets cheated on, and so on. See, the problem, Blaze, with statements like that is that they require objective morality or a specific entity to mete out the punishments. Who decides what's good or bad? Think about that. What's punishable? What isn't? How would the evildoer even be punished? See, after death, when there would be no longer be a human consciousness or a body to feel the punishment, when would the punishment end? If at all, it would end, wouldn't it? I mean, certainly no crime is worth punishment forever. And if there is such a thing as divine retribution or retributive justice, how could it apply to the soul? I want you to think about that. That would, in effect, be saying that the soul is inherently evil, or at least inherently flawed. And that's something I just cannot believe. It may not be perfect. Soul evolution is the quest for perfection of the soul through soul growth over eons of time. But I cannot accept that it is inherently flawed or evil, talking about the soul. The body, the brain, the personality that the soul inhabits for what is, think about it, a relatively short period of time when you compare it to eternity, may be evil, might be flawed, might be compromised, but not the soul. So why would the soul be punished for the transgressions of the body when the body ceases to exist? See, one theory holds that there is no accountability beyond what is called the life review. And if you're familiar with the life review, it's what takes place after you pass on. It's the period between lives. The life review is a moment by moment review of our earthly incarnation that's conducted between lives by, some would say, by the spirit guides. So in this scenario, one experiences their life story as perceived by those with whom they interacted during their lifetime, meaning that if they caused someone hurt, they get to experience that. Every one of them, every one of those hurts. But also, where they were a blessing, where they caused someone joy and comfort, they get to experience that feeling too. Go up into, their own surprise and amazement. Then we have those accounts of how everyone who's ever committed an act of evil will experience it on the other side. So during their life review, every rapist, killer, maimer experiences what it's like to be raped, killed, or maimed, and they see and feel it firsthand, as if they were the victim. Now, another theory holds that karma, at least in the classic retributive sense of the word, is a con job, and there is no more karma, a negative or positive, attached to human life than there is for an actor playing a part in a movie, a villain or a hero. I want you to think of the last film or a play that you saw where there were incredibly evil people doing incredibly evil things. Now think about what happened when the lights came on, or when the curtain came down, or when the director yelled cut and the actors left the stage. No one chased them or hauled them off to jail. I assure you, Sir Anthony Hopkins never spent one day in jail for making a delicious gourmet meal out of someone, as he did in Hannibal Lecter. They were playing the role of someone evil. Even the actors on the stage know who they really are, who they are off stage. They're actors. Many people, it's natural that they do that. They associate reincarnation with karma. But there is no necessary linkage between those ideas. And many reincarnation beliefs, the belief systems, don't include the philosophy of karma that we know from Hinduism, of Buddhism, other Indic religions. Since many religious and belief systems acknowledge reincarnation without karma, it seems clear that karma may not be a necessary corollary of reincarnation. But see, we can take that one step further by asking whether we see evidence for karma operating in reincarnation cases. Maybe, just maybe, karma is a philosophical or religious idea without any scientific basis or foundation. I want you to think about this. Consider this, if you will. Of the more than 2,500 cases that he studied during his career, Ian Stevenson, and your viewers might know who he is, you might know who he is, Ian Stevenson, learned of only 4 in which karma was even thought to be involved. Now, these were cases with congenital physical abnormalities. So I would submit that we all go through the length and breadth of human experience just to explore the human condition. Maybe on the other side, we shake hands, we have a cocktail or 2 or 3 with the souls of those that we persecuted or who persecuted us. And we talk about how we all played our individual roles and what we learned from them. I like to think of the words of William Shakespeare, who said, "All the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. Each has their exit and their entrances. One man in his time plays many parts." So that's my take on karma.
The audience would like to know about your background.
By trade, I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and past life regression therapist. I've been doing this for 47 years. I created and developed and directed the nation's largest network of private hypnotherapy clinics. I have 2 books. One of them deals with past lives and reincarnation. Your journey was never meant to end, a compelling case for reincarnation.
So my next question is it possible that some karmic debts are too big to be repaid in one lifetime? And if so, what happens then?
No, I don't believe that they're too big to be paid, and I don't believe that they are necessarily repaid, as I spoke about earlier in answer to the first question. So I have to go back to that the karmic debts do not do not necessarily go from one lifetime to another. Each lifetime that we have is meant to be an experience, meant to be a learning experience, or to experience other. When you experience anything, you naturally learn. So I don't believe that the karmic debts are too big to be repaid in one lifetime, nor do I necessarily believe that the karmic debts are meant to be repaid. We're meant to learn by our experience from that previous lifetime.
Have you ever encountered a case where someone's past life was so disturbing that it permanently altered their present identity?
Not permanently alter their identity. What I've seen is what happens when a past life regression is done incorrectly, and they're not appropriate safeguards that are built into that regression. You see, past life regression does not have to be traumatic to, or rather, traumatic to be dramatic. So there's no it's not necessary for that. Where it does happen is because the regression was done incorrectly, and there weren't appropriate safeguards built into that. Safeguards that, for instance, one safeguard that I routinely use is that they will not, I do not allow my clients to experience a lifetime that would be traumatic or that they're not prepared to learn about at this time. And I find that the higher self directs us to those lifetimes that we need to know about. But again, it does not have to be traumatic.
Some people are unable to visit their past lives. What could they mean? What would it mean?
That's not true. That's because the regression was done incorrectly. There are certain things that a good regressionist can do to assist a person to experience the past lives. See, one of the problems with that is that people believe that in experiencing a past life, that past life regression is necessarily a visual experience. It is not. Past life regression can be auditory, in which you actually hear things. It can be kinesthetic, which means that it's something that you feel in an emotional sense, in other words, or it can be just a knowing. So if a person is unable to visit a specific past life, then that's usually because the higher self deems that they're not ready for that experience at that particular time. They may be ready later on, but they're not ready at that particular time. I've never had a situation where I didn't have a client experience a past life, but then I use certain techniques that almost force a person into a past life.
What could be the techniques? Can you share some of them?
Yeah, I'll tell you. Yes, I'll tell you what I do. One of the things that I do is I extensively test a person before I do a past life regression with written tests. One of the tests that I do is what's called a past life profile. There are probably more, but I've cataloged at least 21 different ways that a person is able to experience a past life spontaneously. It may be a deja vu. It may be a specific time period that they happen to resonate with. So what I do the first thing I have a person do is I have them what's called priming the pump. You know, years ago I grew up on a farm, and years ago to bring water out of a pump, you would pour water into the pump, and it would start the action. It primes the pump and brings water up. I use those very same techniques when I'm conducting a past life regression. I tell them, I want you to imagine anything. Make it up if you have to. Trust your instincts. Trust your imagination. But then I also tell them what will happen is, if something happened between those 2 years, it happened for a reason. Whether you placed it there or you're spontaneously remembering that. And when they do that, it can automatically segue or transform to images that are more appropriate for the past life that they're meant to experience. That's called priming the pump. And I found that to be after doing this for just about 47 years, I found that to be a very, very effective technique. to help them a person along, but first using their imagination and then letting the subconscious mind take over. You just don't dive in there and expect the person to bring up a past life automatically. Some of them will, some of them won't. So some of them have to be helped along.
So they can visually see everything, or
Most people do see, but they may not see things in what's called a picture-clear postcard image. They may be very vague or hazy or indistinct images, and then again, they may not. Some people don't see it all. As I said, they may hear, they may feel, they may have a knowing of what that previous existence was. But it's a mistake to think that to categorize past life recall as entirely visual. Sometimes it isn't.
so have you ever visited your past life too?
Yes, I've visited my past life. I've had colleagues. I've had colleagues of mine hypnotize me to experience a past life. So I have.
What did you see?
Well, the last one I did, I experienced myself as a fighter pilot during World War II, who died in a dogfight.
Okay, my next question is, could we be repeating the same lifetime over and over without realizing it?
Yes, we can. As a matter of fact, we can. We can experience the lifetime we just lived. In other, I would reincarnate as me, you would reincarnate as you, the same lifetime. However, it will be in an alternate timeline. There will be, with some of my clients, I've had this happen, and there will be subtle differences, because it's in an alternate timeline. Things may not be exactly the same. Sometimes they're very subtle differences, sometimes they're very dramatic and drastic differences. But I have found that it is possible for a person to choose in between lifetimes to relive or replay the same lifetime.
Does another version of us exist in a parallel world?
Yes, exactly. It exists in a parallel. Some use the word alternate timeline. There's a scientific basis for that. It's called the multiverse.
Okay, my next question is, do souls deliberately take on villain roles in some lifetimes for spiritual growth?
Well, I'm going to refer to my opening remarks about the nature of karma. Yes, they do take on. That's what they agree to do in between lifetimes. They agree to take on villain roles, but they agree to take it on for a reason. What could be that reason? It could be to offer learning experiences or teaching experiences to other people that they might be persecuting at that particular time. So yeah, they do make agreements to play the bad guy, just like in a movie. That's the role that was written into the script. That's what they agreed to do.
Okay. If someone was poor in multiple past lives, does it mean they have a karmic block against wealth in this life?
It can mean that, but it doesn't. When you say in multiple past lives, I believe that we're meant to experience the entire breadth of human experiences. So it could, although we were poor, poverty-stricken in a previous lifetime, there have also been lifetimes that we've been immensely wealthy, and we choose to experience the flip side of that, which would be what it's like to be poor. Now, people have asked me, why would I choose to be poor? Why would I choose to be physically infirm? I said, and I tell them, you have to realize this, right? We're choosing it for a reason, to have a particular experience, to learn a particular, or some people feel to learn a particular lesson. But what we perceive as being a terrible lifetime is over, when you compare it to eternity, 70 years or 70 years is over like that, in the twinkling of an eye. And we know that in between, we don't feel that way now when we're experiencing it. But when in the in-between stage, when we plan our coming lifetime, we know that it's going to be over relatively quick. And we're doing this for a reason.
Can we manifest a desired life?
Yes, we can manifest. We can manifest a desired life, but let's look at what we mean by manifestation. Okay, I believe that for in many instances can be explained through the phenomena of quantum physics. There are many intriguing concepts in quantum physics, like quantum entanglement, quantum foam, string theory, the primacy of the observer, and they offer a fascinating framework that could potentially shed light on the concept of manifestation. Let's take a look at how some of this might work. First of all, quantum entanglement. We mentioned quantum entanglement. Well, this suggests that particles can become entangled in such a way that the state of one, again, no matter what the distance is, can simultaneously affect the state of the other. Now, this interconnectedness on a quantum level might hint at a universe where everything is connected, and it supports the idea that our thoughts and intentions could influence the physical world, which implies manifestation. Then there's the concept of quantum foam. That refers to the concept that at the smallest scale of the universe, space-time is bubbling with temporary particles popping in and out of existence. This fluctuating nature of reality at its most fundamental level could suggest a flexible, dynamic universe that's responsible or responsive to the intentions and the observations of conscious beings, which allows our intention to manifest could result from the phenomena of quantum, or the quantum physics phenomenon of quantum foam. Then there's string theory. Now, string theory proposes that the fundamental particles of the universe are not point-like dots, but rather they're tiny vibrating strings. Now, the different vibrations of these strings manifest as different particles. This vibrational nature of reality might parallel the idea that different frequencies of thoughts or intentions could resonate with and manifest different outcomes in the physical world. And then lastly, there's what we call the primacy of the observer. In quantum physics, this highlights the role of the observer in determining the state of a quantum system. It could be the conscious observer, or in the in-between state, in the discarnate state, it would be our unconsciousness that is observing. So the act of observation affects the outcome, according to the theory, suggesting that our conscious focus and observation could play a crucial role in shaping our reality, aligning with the principle of manifestation. Now, what this does, the end result of all this is not that we manifest something immediately without any conscious effort. It would lead us, in this sense, it would lead us to experience synchronicities and serendipities that would be needed and necessary to manifest wealth, to find the opportunities, in other words, to manifest the wealth. It just doesn't fall from heaven.
Just like past life regression, there is a future life progression.
Actually, there is. That's very interesting. The future life progression. Years ago, I used to do seminars, public seminars. I'd do them in hotel rooms and office and whatnot. And one of the things I used to include was a future life progression. I would do a couple of past life regressions, then I do a future life progression with the group. What I found that it was very unreliable, in the sense that some people in a future life progression would see a very dystopian future, almost like the movie The Mad Max, right? And others would see a utopian future, where there was no disease, no hunger, people lived in space stations circling the Earth. So what occurred to me is that, unlike a past life regression, which constitutes a reality, future life progression constitutes a potentiality or a probability.
That might not be real, perhaps.
Yeah, it's all. I think what it is when we do a future life regression, it's not what will be, it's what could be.
So it could change also,
Yeah,
according to our present actions.
yeah. This is true. Yeah.
Can money itself carry karma? For example, if someone inherits wealth earned through unethical means, does it impact our spiritual path?
Yes, it will, and it'll impact our physical path during that lifetime as a lesson to be learned. So if someone inherits wealth that was earned unethically, there will be karma associated with it. It could be the karma could be that they'll lose their wealth. Then they get to experience in that lifetime the other side of the coin, poverty, having once been rich, now poor. That's what I have to say. Yeah,
Can they clear that karma through past life regression?
yeah, absolutely.
And will their condition change after that if they have earned unethically in the past life and in this life they are poor? So
Yes, it can. This would be in the context of past life therapy, which is past life regression done for a particular purpose or a specific purpose, a specific issue. It can be fears and phobias, it could be addictions, it could be self-esteem and self-confidence, or it can be financial issues. So by taking a person back to a past lifetime that was responsible, it could be a past life, it could be a particular incident during that past lifetime, or it could be the lifetime as a whole. That, for instance, it could be the attitudes that a person held during that lifetime. Maybe that person spent that life, they were poor during that lifetime, and they had the attitude of, why even try? What's the difference? You've got to be rich to make it in this world. Or that money is reserved only for the wealthy people, not someone like me. Then that attitude carries over into this lifetime. By using past life therapy, you can help a person, first of all, understand that attitude is keeping them financially limited and keeping them from seeing the opportunities that are out there, the opportunities, the synchronicities, the serendipities, from seeing those, and then help them see them. So in that sense, yes, past life regression, when done as past life therapy, can be very successful in releasing those blockages.
are certain people destined to never be rich because of karmic contracts?
They seem to make it because of a karma contract. But again, I would submit that that's not true, because they have had lifetimes which they didn't have those particular issues and challenges. So it seems from our perspective now, our limited perspective, our limited psychological perspective in this life, it seems that way. But there've been, years ago, Frank Sinatra recorded a song called "That's Life." This is back in the 1960s. One of the lines from that song is, "I've been a puppet, a pauper, a pirate, a poet, a pawn, and a king. I've been up and down and over and out, and I know one thing." And that's my feeling of the way lifetimes particularly happen. We run the whole gamut of experience during our lifetimes. When you think about it, we could have hundreds. Some people think that there's could be thousands of previous lifetimes. So we experience it all.
Can past life traumas around money sabotage financial success in this life?
Yes, I answer that. It can sabotage that, and that's what we use past life therapy for. So when we have those erroneous expectations, those what do we call postulates or paradigms that were formed in a past life, and we carry it over in this time, it can sabotage us. That's where past life therapy is valuable. By helping the person realize what those paradigms were, and then change those paradigms in this lifetime.
What could be the reason that some people get success easily?
They don't. Easy is a relative term, okay?
While others have to work harder than them.
Yeah, it's a relative term. They do have success easily because that's what they contracted for in a previous lifetime. was to have a lifetime of ease, a lifetime of success. But that doesn't mean that they didn't have lifetimes that were not easy, that were not successful.
Is there a specific past life memory technique that can unlock financial abundance instantly?
Well, yes, as I said, not instantly. Okay, let me make that perfectly clear. The person, as I said before, the person still has to work towards it. They have to be, but there are techniques that are done in past life therapy by a therapist that will help them be more receptive to the opportunities that are available to them, and will allow synchronicities to come into their lives. So nothing's going to happen instantly. I don't think there's any kind of past life or technique that's going to help you win the lotto.
Could a toxic relationship in this life be punishment for what we did to someone in a past life?
Uh, Not punishment. Again, I don't believe in punishment. A toxic relationship in this life could be what the soul is looking to know and looking to experience to counterbalance the effects or the of what happened in the previous life. But it's not punishment. It's not. It's what they agreed to do. They agreed to have a toxic relationship in this life to counterbalance whatever happened in that previous life.
They had a soul contract.
Yeah, they had a soul contract. They had soul contracts in the previous lifetime. They have soul contracts in this time for a particular reason, a particular learning experience. What are they meant to learn? Well, that's what we find out in a past life regression.
Why do some people take revenge?
Why do some people take revenge? Well, I don't know if that can be answered from the past life perspective, in that they take revenge on another person because that is part of their soul contract, and the revenge is taken, and the person has to accept that revenge. The revenge is taken on the person to provide a particular learning experience for that person, and a learning experience for the person who is doing the revenge. Maybe later on they become remorseful for the revenge that they took. And that in itself becomes a learning experience.
Can it be possible if a person doesn't want to be reincarnated again?
Yes, possible. Person can decide that they don't want to incarnate. But remember, it is only through reincarnation that our soul grows and our soul evolves. If we accept the premise that the purpose of reincarnation is to, at one point, be one with the universe or one with the creator, however you happen to look upon it, they can choose not to reincarnate. But I've never heard of an experience where a soul made immediately upon crossing over, because of the trauma that they went through during that lifetime, they may decide never again. But usually in the time period between lives, and in their meetings and the discourse they have with their spirit guide, the council of elders, their soul group, they do eventually decide to reincarnate. It may be for a longer time, subjectively speaking, because there is no time in the afterlife, past, present, and future all one. But they can decide not to reincarnate, but by doing that, but they will not do that. They will only do that for a short period of time.
What happens after we die?
Well, after we die, we're from the sessions that I have done, when we cross over, we are met by someone or some entity. Many times that entity will be a relative from another lifetime, someone who we were close to. Other times it is the spirit guide, who, as you know, guides us through different incarnations. The spirit guide may also meet the soul upon crossing over. Then it doesn't happen with every soul, it doesn't happen in this exact order, but they'll have a meeting with a spirit guide, they'll have a life review, it's called a debriefing process. They will have a reunion with their soul group. They will have specific learning activities that take place during the in-between life stage. They will meet with the council of elders at least once, usually multiple times during that. They will go through a pre-birth planning process where they do it either alone or more likely it's with their spirit guide and members of their soul group to plan their coming incarnation, to plan their coming soul contracts. They will choose the lifetime that they'll choose the particular life that they're going to live. They'll choose the body. They'll choose the circumstances. They'll even get to choose the time period. They may decide if they want to be reincarnated into the past.
Does heaven and hell exist?
Heaven exists, but not in the classical sense. I don't think I don't think there's pearly gates. I don't think there's deities in heaven, or a god with a big white beard sitting up there on a throne. I think there is a overriding universal consciousness that represents heaven. I don't believe that hell exists. Again, that would assume divine retribution, and I don't believe in that.
How astral projection is different from past life regression?
Astral projection, in my understanding, astral projection is something that some people have the capacity or the talent for projecting themselves in this lifetime to different places, to different realms. It really has nothing to do with past life regression.
Have you ever helped someone recall a past life where they were their own current partner's parent, sibling, or even enemy?
Yes, all of the above. All of the above. I have a specific type of past life regression called karmic connection. And I take them back in the karmic connection session. There's several different types of past life regression. But the karmic connection, I take them back to a lifetime that has had particular influence on this particular lifetime, or whatever is going on in this particular lifetime. It does not necessarily mean that they go back to the lifetime lived chronologically directly prior to this one. In other words, if they were born in 1990, it doesn't mean they go back to 1890 or 1900. They could go back several hundred years, because that is a lifetime that is influencing them, or what's going on in this influencing them in this particular lifetime. And in that lifetime, they do get to meet their soulmates, the spouses, relatives. They get to explore the different occupations they had and how it may influence this lifetime, skills, talents, abilities. They get to experience incidents with friends, and also incidents with what they would perceive as enemies.
Can you share a popular case that you have handled? Any past life case that you have handled that
Well,
might...
I can share one that really stands out in my mind, and it may shed light on when we experience, or people experience, certain illnesses or certain chronic pain or what that might be linked to a past life. Many years ago, I had a person come in to me for a specific reason. He had a pain in his back that he could not explain. The doctors couldn't explain. They said there's no reason for that pain. It's all in your mind, all in your head. And also, he was very chronically mistrustful of other people. He was constantly, how he described, he was always looking behind his back. Okay, he went back to a lifetime as a fur trapper in Colorado in the 1880s. His trapping was encroaching on Indian territory, Indian reservation land, which the Indians really didn't like. So they called him in for a powwow. They had a meeting with him, and they made an agreement that from this day forward, he would be allowed to hunt on this particular part of the land, but not on that particular part of it. And they made an agreement on what he was allowed to do, what he wasn't allowed to do. One of the people during the meeting, the powwow that they had, did not want to have anything to do with the white man. He was vehemently opposed to making any kind of deals with the white man. Well, as this fellow, my client, was walking towards his horse to leave the meeting, This Indian snuck up behind him and tomahawked him in the back. Okay? Now, knowing that, his back pain was relieved, and now we see why he was always chronically mistrustful of other people, always looking behind him, because someone snuck up behind him and tomahawked him in the back, and he died a horrible death. So that's something that really stands out in my mind.
Can unresolved past life love affairs trap people into repeated cycles of heartbreak?
Yes, they can, as a matter of fact. They can, because that becomes imprinted on their mind, on the subconscious mind, so to speak, and it can become a cycle unless that cycle is broken. And that would be something that would be in the province of past life therapy, because they have set themselves up for that in a past life. So it imprinted itself upon the soul. But it can be removed through therapy.
So people who have constantly cheated others, will they be cheated?
Yes, there is a. They may choose to experience what they did to another person in this lifetime to know what it's like. They will experience it anyway in the past life review. They may not have to experience it in their coming incarnation. They will definitely experience it in the past life review.
Is it possible that our soulmate in this life is actually a karmic test rather than a blessing?
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, what you're referring to is the theory of twin flame soulmates. Now there are different types of soulmates. Okay, companion soulmates, karmic soulmates, and also twin flame soulmates. And what we see with twin flame soulmates was theoretically it's they're part of the same soul. The soul splits in theory, and we may share a lifetime with them as a soulmate, as a karmic, and it can oftentimes it's a very toxic relationship. So yeah, that is possible, but usually it's with twin flame soulmates.
Does everyone have a twin flame, or only few people have?
Not necessarily. No, some people may not have twin flames because and other people may have triple flames, quadruple flames, any number of flames, because the soul chooses the soul is part of our soul is part of an oversoul. Okay. Look at it this way. So it's a group of souls that we are part of, and some people see the twin flames as being a part of that particular not soul group. It's not really a soul group. It's an oversoul. That's the term, oversoul. So yeah, that can be the case. Yes.
If someone had a deep, passionate love in a past life, can they accidentally summon that lover into this lifetime?
Summon. Well, if you mean summon in the sense that you would do that in the sense of witchcraft, okay, and summon that person, no, they cannot do that. However, they can open themselves up to synchronicities where they can meet that particular person. They can't make that person come to them.
Could unexplained illnesses or chronic pain be linked to injuries from past life deaths?
Yes, I gave you an example of that from that person who was a fur trapper in Colorado. His back pain was a result of that particular incident, and also his psychological paranoia. So definitely can be linked to past lives.
For a heart disease or cancer, is it linked to past life?
Yeah, sometimes, believe it or not, sometimes it is. Heart disease, or let's say heart, where it's the result of hardening of the arteries, can be the result of. I've seen it as a result of taking a unrealistic hard view of life, my way or the highway. So they see they're very hard-hearted in a previous life, and it translates into hardening of the arteries in the current lifetime.
And cancer?
I'm not sure about whether cancer can be related to a past life.
So these diseases cannot be cured through past life regression.
You, you can set up the process of cure. You can accelerate the cure that is being provided by medical care. But if the person is thinking that they're going to go into a past life regression and instantly they're going to be there, where it is a physical reason for the pain, not a psychological reason, a physical reason for the pain, it's not going to instantly cure them.
Is it possible that extreme phobias like fear of drowning or heights are actually death memories from past incarnations?
Oh, absolutely. I've had that happen many, many times. A lady I just worked with a couple of weeks ago, she had unrealistic fear of gas explosions. And it turned out that this resulted from a past life she lived where her home exploded in a gas explosion.
Can hypnotic regression reveal whether a person was a healer, shaman, or doctor in a past life? And
It
if so,
can.
can they reactivate those skills?
Yeah. Okay, now, remember I told you about the particular type of past life regression called a karmic connection? Okay, that is designed, part of what we do during a karmic connection is we find out what that person did as a livelihood in that past life. And many times by doing that, the skills and the talents can be revived into this lifetime. It doesn't mean they're going to remember every part of that skill, but they will be able to make it much easier for them to educate themselves in that because they have a natural proclivity for that. So the answer is yes.
Have you ever guided someone into a past life regression where they saw their moment of death and what happened immediately after?
I do it every day. I take them through their death experience, and as I mentioned before, right after the death, when the soul leaves the body, they are either going to be they're going to be met by a someone that they knew from another lifetime, perhaps a relative who was sent to greet them, or they'll be met by their spirit guide, or they immediately they may not meet anybody. They may be alone, and they'll find themselves in a void, and then something will gradually materialize. So that's what happens right after death. And as I said, almost every past life regression I do is predicated on taking them also through the death experience.
What happens in a near death experience?
Oh, well, a near-death experience, of course, is an experience where it's kind of a misnomer because as the researchers tell us, that person has, for all intents and purposes, died. But we use the term near-death experience, and in many ways, it's like I call it a almost like a facilitated in between lives regression. That's another type of regression, taking a person to the time period between lives, which we talked about, and I mentioned what happens in that time period between lives. But the near-death experience, my understanding of that is where it's they pass over, they seem to have passed over, and they have certain experiences in what could be perceived as the afterlife. And many of the things that happen are very common. They seem to be very common. They're commonly experienced before someone decides that it's not time for them and they send them back. Now, there are scientific explanations for what happens. Theoretically, one theory has it that the consciousness resides in a part of the microtubules of the brain, which are neuronal structures. And upon death, the consciousness, we know it as a soul, dissipates to the universe. If it's a near-death experience, the person is revived, then that comes back into the microtubules of the brain. And then the person says, well, I had a near-death experience. If they're not able to be revived, it dissipates into the universe.
If past life regression can help us see our previous incarnations, can it also help us see our future ones?
It can help us see the future ones. However, again, There is so much diversity in what a person experiences in a future life regression that I look upon it as seeing the potentialities and the probabilities of what could be, not necessarily what will be. Because if you accept the multiverse theory that the universe branches, there are many different branches into alternate realities. So what may be happening, my theory is what may be happening when you take a person into future. Why does one person see something in a future life progression, see a world that is totally different from the next person? So I think they're going into different alternate realities.
If our audience wants to learn more about your work, experience a past life regression, or get guidance on karma or manifestation, where can they find you?
They can find me online at DrKaloski.com. That's DrKaloski.com. Or they can email me at DrKaloski, again, DrKaloski@gmail.com.
Thank you so much for joining the show.
My pleasure. A lot of fun. You asked some pretty interesting questions and hard questions, and I appreciate that.